Good evening and welcome to the November-December segment of the Voice of the 25th Ward. I think we have a very interesting show today. We have two guests today, and they both are the co-founders of the Chicago Art Department, Nat Soti and Nathan Peck. And Nat and Nathan, what I usually do in the show is have my guests give a small bio of themselves, just so that my viewers can understand what your background is and hopefully how you got connected to the work that you're representing today. So Nat, you want to start? Give us a little background on yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm basically, I guess I kind of always consider myself having two lives. There's my day job, which is I have my own business doing like sort of media design work, which is video production, graphic design, some web stuff, and then sort of my other life is myself as an artist, in which case I'm a sort of a multimedia artist, digital collage work, video art, and then some sound and music work as well.
And Nathan?
I'm a university professor. I teach at St. Xavier University on 103rd Street, South Side. And I'm also a painter, video artist, musician. Just sort of enjoy exploring all forms of expression. And just that's sort of where the two of us met, you know, sort of collaborating on music, collaborating on projects, and then eventually collaborating on the Chicago Art Department.
So I guess that's the key question. Tell us about how the idea of the Chicago Art Department came to fruition, how you guys got together, and what you're doing with it now, and what your vision is for it.
Right.
And whoever wants to start.
Well, we sort of started where we were sharing a studio. We were both new art professors. We were both sort of starting out in that career, having a lot of trouble just figuring out what exactly it is to teach, what exactly it is to motivate and inspire artists. And also just meeting a lot of artists that were constantly coming up with great ideas, sometimes having a difficult time actually seeing them through to completion. And so we just decided, rather than continuing to talk about a lot of these ideas, maybe we would meet up once a week and just sort of motivate people to complete them by having an exhibition deadline, you know, basically by steering everything towards an exhibition. And then once we sort of got our first couple of groups in and sort of worked on that, then we sort of started to sort of think about mission statement, sort of what we might try to accomplish in the greater thing. And that's where this guy's primary focus tends to be.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is, you know, interestingly enough, we were just coming out of grad school as well. There's a third co-founder, Mike Norris, and we went to the Art Institute together for grad school, and Nathan was just starting to teach. And so we were all kind of in this new boat of like, you know, what do you do when you get out of school and you're interested in art and trying to become an artist? You know, you don't necessarily really learn that in school, and so I think in many ways Chicago Art Department kind of became a way to for us to get together, and then people who were in similar situations to try to like figure out how do you become, you know, an artist? How do you sort of get shows and do shows, and issues of, you know, how you survive as an artist, you know, and continue to make work when you've got other things going on in your life as well. And so it's kind of been this sort of community building process as well that's kind of been built, kind of centered around like values of learning and education and arts learning, but at the same time kind of has this real world side of it as well, of people who are really trying to, you know, make it as artists.
You know, I think for the viewers to get sort of a sense or the flavor of what you're doing, I think if you described where you're at and what the history of that area where you're at is, and coincidentally it's part of my ward, and that's why you're here, but let's talk about that. How did you pick where you're at, and what's the rationale for that?
One of the key things that started this was knowing that we wanted to give artists space and people, space to make art and space to show art, and people to collaborate with and people to show their art to. And as we were wandering around different art exhibitions, different neighborhoods, seeing what's going on, we came across the place in Pilsen between 18th and 19th Street on Halsted, where there was a whole strip of galleries, studios, people working, people sharing their art, and especially it's got a once a month on the second Fridays of every month. There's a whole gallery walk there, and it's been going on for over 30 years. And so you've got this tradition of people coming to celebrate art, and so we found that to be a fantastic place a fantastic place to sort of to focus our attention. And so we rented a space on the Strip, and over the course of the last 7 years have been doing all different sorts of exhibitions. You know, sometimes it's a giant white room. It's a giant white concrete room.
Right.
It's on a storefront street, and so you sort of come into this giant white room, and one week it'll be covered with paintings. The next, maybe the next month that you come in, it'll be covered with video projections everywhere. Maybe another month you might come in and there might be somebody delivering a performance or giving some sort of a creative delivery of a speech or a poetry or something. It's really just with this group of artists that we work with, trying to reinvent what a gallery experience could be like as often as possible, knowing that we have an audience that's prepared for a gallery experience. So if we can constantly be reinventing this when we got an audience that's already prepared.
You know, I think you made a good point. It's been going on for 30 years. It's like a great secret, but really the artist community across the city and probably across the Midwest really know about it. And I have to mention Mr. John Podmajersky, Sr., because he's really the one that has nurtured and tried to keep that alive. He's also been able to put together some incredible gardens in the vast properties that he owns, and I think that's probably another attraction of the art community to that area.
Yeah, certainly.
And as we were talking before the show started, you know, I'm very committed to try to make that even better and bigger. And there is a strip of land between Halsted and Canal on Cermak that is an old manufacturing area that really has had its day, you know, and the type of building that is there is multi-level. Manufacturing is not going to come there. So I'm very, very interested in making that into a live work area for artists, because if you look at that whole area, on the east you've got Chinatown, on the west you have Pilsen, north you've got that whole University Village, University Commons, Little Italy area. Down south you get Bridgeport. It's intersected by the Great Chicago River. So my vision for that, it could really be like the spoke of a wheel, and that spoke being in the artist community. But tell me, what do you think? I
think that's a great idea. I mean, I think, well, like we mentioned, I think, you know, one of the things I think that really makes that our neighborhood unique is that it isn't just a gallery, or it isn't just a gallery neighborhood. I've always loved the fact that it's actually been traditionally, you know, a place where artists live, work, and show. So you can kind of get the whole experience. You know, it's one thing to be able to walk into a gallery and see the finished work on the wall, but it's another thing to be able to walk into their studio and see them in the process of making works. And I think, you know, in terms of how the neighborhood could be identified, you know, sort of for sort of greater Chicago and maybe even beyond, I think this idea of this community, this artist, you know, this artist community is a really great place to start.
Yeah, I've been thinking parochial, just how it's going to help my ward, but it's going to be tremendous for the city. And I want to see if I can maybe set up some sort of a structure with people like yourselves and other gallery owners and artists so that we can begin developing that plan. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think ultimately one of the things that we were thinking when we were just beginning was the idea of as the Chicago Art Department, not being that dissimilar to the Chicago Fire Department or the Water Department or anything else or the Police Department, where it's like we're a group of artists, and we can attract artists, and we can bring artists in and sort of offer them opportunities. The idea of working with the city, working with the Alderman, and trying to combine the forces of our organization, the Chicago Urban Art Society, several of the other galleries that are on the street, to really sort of to mobilize artists and maybe allow them to have opportunities and space and people, those things that we know that artists need. And mix that with things that the city and the neighborhood has is a perfect union of resources and people. Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, sitting down with, I've worked with other neighborhoods, chambers of commerce and neighborhood leaders. I think that this particular neighborhood is one with its tradition that would be a perfect place to sort of help, sort of, you know, take advantage of those manufacturing areas. just switching the focus from manufacturing, other types of things to manufacturing art.
We've been trying, the city has been trying to attract manufacturing to that area, but it's just not succeeding. And so I think, I've been the alderman there for 14 years, and many years before that, the city's been trying to do that. It's just not succeeding. And I think what we should do is now take this second option, which I think is a more realistic option for the time and for the area, of using it as a haven for art and artists.
And it's not, you got me to thinking, in terms of manufacturing and then sort of what can replace that. And I feel like, and maybe this is just sort of my limited world, but I do feel like, a lot of interest of the sort of kids and younger people growing up, even if it's not necessarily arts per se, there are a lot of sort of fields that are sort of creative industry type fields. So so even if it's not just all art galleries and artist studios, like there's video, there's
making
graphic
movies,
design, there's all sorts of, and I think the one interesting thing is like, creatives sort of like being able to have space where that they feel like they can have, sort of create their own little world and sort of have that freedom. And that's why we've always been attracted to sort of like, abandoned, empty loft type buildings and stuff, because it's one of the few places where you can just go in and kind of.
Yeah, well, when you come to those monthly Friday events, I mean, it's loaded with people. Yeah. And people walking up and down Hosted, and then that splits off to 18th Street. I'm telling you, those businesses, especially the restaurants and the stores, they generate a lot of business because of that. And I was talking to the commander a few days ago, and he says, you would not recognize the neighborhood on those particular evenings, because it's just like if you were in a European city where the evenings are alive and active and people are walking.
And even if it's raining, even if it's snowing, even if it's scorching hot, the neighborhood is just, it's crawling with people, and it's crawling with people that have one thing in common, which is the idea that they want to be inspired and they want to sort of see what's happening, and I think that combination of those two things, just continues to bring people back there to see, but also eventually, in some cases, will bring people back to join up with our organization, to rent a space of their own, knowing that there is that relationship between the audience and the artists, and it just seems that any way that you can, whether by extending it, by making it easier to gain access to it, whatever way, one thing that an artist can really strive on is collaboration. Is having other like-minded people around that they can bounce ideas off of, that they can be inspired by, that they can sort of move, which is why I think that a lot of artists will tend to migrate towards one another and sort of to be able to work off of one another. So whether it's by starting with a building and just sort of saying, let's use this building and mix musicians with painters and performers and paint, whatever, you get this cross of information back and forth.
Right. And then there are a few businesses there, but they're not threatened by this. They're actually welcoming them and saying, we want to be part of this. Reuben Brothers on Hosted, just south of Cermak. Sterling Bay just bought some property there. I think they're the ones that are the owners of Lauren Pacheco's gallery. What's Lauren's gallery?
Chicago Urban Art Society.
Chicago Urban Art Society. And I think this month in December, that gallery is going to host an exhibit for the mayor, where to commemorate his birthday, I think he just turned 68 or 69, I think 68 artists are going to be asked to do a piece on him. And I think that I'm going to use that opportunity to talk to the mayor about this vision. Even though he's leaving, he still has a lot of things he could do and a lot of influence, I believe, when he's gone, in terms of what's going to happen in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that's kind of similar to a lot of, like, their organization and ours and others in the neighborhood is, very proud of being artists from Chicago, and kind of.
How many galleries are there in that strip, would you say?
I think right now, the last time that I did the walk around, I think that there was easily 8 or 9 that were very visible, and then there's probably another 5 or 6 that are hidden back down an alleyway, sort of back around the corner. I happened to